Hello, I'm the Angry Spork, taking issue with Apocalypse the 12. A disenfranchised mutant Skrull arrived at the Xavier Institute, warning of a looming threat to Earth. This seemed to coincide with a mysterious diary left by the mutant oracle Destiny, and a passage about the impending importance of 12 specific mutants. Meanwhile, Time Traveler Cable had a big celebratory fight with Apocalypse and his new Horseman of Death, Wolverine. We continue with X-Men number 96, story and art by Alan Davis, accompanied in the latter by Mark Farmer and Marie Javins. Or Javins, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. The cover features a bunch of X-Men getting knocked around while Death Vereen shows off his sick dance moves. And in the background, Angel is closing in, as well as Jubilee, even though she's in her Generation X suit and not the one we saw her in the first part of the story. Women and changing outfits, am I right?
Am I right, fellas? I'm so alone.
We open to Magneto having a bad dream, being assailed by various Genosian mutates, Fabian Cortez, and some acolytes. No, he's not flashing back to his time in retail on a Black Friday, but it's rather more symbolic of the long struggle he's endured. Despite having the once proudly oppressive nation of Genosha as his domain, he doesn't feel he's done much good. Xavier apologizes for intruding on his thoughts, but the situation is dire. When he awakens, Magnus narrates how his distrusting demeanor is due to being betrayed by those closest to him. Part of me assumes this is another such trap. If so, Charles Xavier will suffer for it.
That will teach my best friend. I'll either capture him and keep him in a dungeon, or just be extra terse at our next ominous chess game.
Eric calls in Fabian Cortez, who's looking pretty lively for a guy we saw die in Avengers Blood Ties a couple years back. He wants him to review all the security protocols, biological and technological, for the island and the Citadel, and for a hypercharge from his scheming lieutenant, which at this time is the only way Magnus can use his maximum power. When Fabian suggests he accompany his master, Magneto strikes him, immediately recognizing it as a mistake, since it's a sign of weakness that people like Cortez live to exploit. And this man has trust issues, you say? At the Institute, Storm and Cyclops review their situation, leaning towards worst-case scenario, such as Logan, and the Skrulls that kidnapped him working with Apocalypse. And he's not too trusting of Fizz, since he's from a race with subterfuge in their nature.
I don't trust him either. Those lobes on his brow are supposed to be gold, not green. He's up to something, I tells you. Or it's an artist's mistake, but why split hairs?
I can't think of a better source of disinformation. Oh, Cyclops, you poor, naive little star child.
Having lived through 2020, I can think of several, and they sadly have media influence.
Psych figures Pocky could have anticipated their willingness to give sanctuary to someone in need, thinking they need to take after Ronald Reagan to trust but verify.
I do solemnly swear that as your president, I will goof off and eat candy.
Also, peculiar mistake with Marrow's coloring here, making her look naked except for her exoskeleton plating. At least I hope it's a mistake. Anyway, the team will have to be less reactive to their enemies' moves. This will include trying to decipher the journals Destiny wrote when she was a teenager and her powers started manifesting, and using Cerebro to find the others among the 12. One of whom, Iceman, is ice-sliding for his life to get to Xavier's, as he is pursued by one of Apocalypse's other horsewoman, Deathbird. He takes advantage of her notable temper to encase her in ice, so cold that Bird Lady likens it to the absolute zero of space.
Pretty sure there is no absolute zero in space.
That would require a complete lack of thermal energy, and, well, she manages to generate enough to free herself and knock her quarry out. I assume because she's a Dragon Ball Z fan and has picked up a few things. As she transports away, Jean can no longer sense her old friend with Cerebro, and never got a reading on Deathbird to begin with. Meanwhile, whereas some old friends reconnect online or at old hangouts, Xavier and Magneto meet at the site where the Master of Magnets sank a nuclear sub with all hands, and later took its remaining warheads for himself. Good times, good times! They begin by reaffirming their differing stances on the fate of mutant kind, with Eric hinting that he intends to do more than settle for Genosha, feeling that alone does not make his people safe. Then find common ground, begin a dialogue, make peace. Words are cheap, and the security they provide as evanescent as the morning dew.
Sounds like Magneto doesn't want to be everybody's fool while he thinks he's got the weight of the world for his sweet sacrifice, and Xavier's just saying, "Call me when you're sober," as if he's on cloud 9. Track 12. Wait, what?
Chuck makes a not-so-subtle comparison between Eric's ambiguous intentions and the tactics of the Nazis that persecuted him, which, while arguably valid, tests Magneto's patience. Setting aside their undying debate, a quick mind link brings Mags up to speed, and he seems to take interest of Polaris' addition to the list of 12, what with her powers very much like his own. With such immense powers being sought by Apocalypse, Eric toys with the idea of killing Xavier and the others on the list, because greater good and all that, but it's tabled for now, and Magneto asks how he can help. Also, I'm not sure which of them is saying this bit of dialogue. It doesn't seem to make sense for Magnus to say it, but it doesn't seem to point that much to the Prof. Meanwhile, just as Moira is reconfirming Mikhail Rasputin's clean bill of health, Bean sends an alert of an intruder getting inside the facility, through an open doorway in reality.
Someone left the reality door open and is letting all the heat out. This place is expensive enough to air condition as it is.
Colossus armors up to defend his brother from death, who says the only way to stop his mission is to end the Horseman. You ain't got the grit in you for murder, and even if you did, you ain't got the juice.
Specifically, cranapple.
Evil Logan, however, not only knows his old pal's weaknesses, he can exploit them despite the fact he's covered in metal, and hits him with some kind of energy power. The one thing on the cool factor docket Wolverine was missing.
I can't think of a better way to visualize the dying gasps of the 1990s than Wolvie with laser blasts. I stand corrected.
Logan then makes short work of any resistance from Moira and Mikhail, and says he's sparing them because his master wants to finish them off himself. As he opens an exit portal, Cyclops and Storm arrive, but despite their best efforts, Mikhail is lost and Death has escaped into the mansion. Aurora thinks she should have fried him with a lightning bolt, but Sykes says Apocalypse chose Logan because the X-Men would be hesitant to use deadly force, on top of how well he knows his old allies.
You remember he has a healing factor, right? Lightning might just incapacitate him long enough to be properly restrained, or, depending on the writer, set his brain back to normal. Weirder things have happened in real life.
In Japan, Sunfire is having a disagreement with his superiors in the defense organization Yakiba regarding Apocalypse's threat. They aren't buying it regardless of how much trust their agent puts in the X-Men. Maybe a visit from Famine will change their minds, apparently taking a break from adorning the side of someone's van. Sunfire gets them to safety and deals with the foe, but the very power of the sun's core doesn't seem to faze Famine, since, well, his name means hunger beyond satisfaction, so he merely absorbs the mutant's energy and takes off with his prey, leaving his bosses to rethink their position and find some means to challenge the threat they previously mocked. Back at the X-Mansion, Shadowcat confronts her old mentor, pleading for him to break free of the control over him, but he just uses some kind of taser in his sword to stun Kitty while she's intangible. Kinda weird, since her powers typically disrupt electrical devices, so I'm not sure how this is supposed to work, unless it's like magic electricity. Rogue flies in with a mighty punch, but Logan tosses a small orb of some kind that explodes and incapacitates her. Kind of easy to miss, though. Fizz tries to help, guarding Rogue while cleverly using his face as a punching bag, giving Nightcrawler time to try his three-fingered hand. He combines his agility and teleportation to suppress his opponent, but doesn't fare any better than his teammates. Even accounting for the armor, he seems extra durable. The rest of the team gathers as Death deals one swipe of his sword to a support beam, burying them in rubble.
There's always that one support beam that brings down the whole house. What contractor did Xavier use anyway?
Fortunately, Fizz increased his size, shielding his new allies. Despite thoughts to the contrary, Kitty figures that with Cyclops, one of the 12 in the path of danger, Maybe Wolverine was fighting back against his High Lord, in the only way he could. As Jean psychically tells them 4 of the 12 have been captured, she's managed to pinpoint their location to Egypt. Sure, it's a little convenient, but they can hardly refuse. Psyche sends 3 X-Men after Death, and Jubilee makes herself a 4th, insisting on saving Wolverine like when they first met. Fizz asks to join them in battle, with Rogue thinking it'd be good to have such a wild card on hand. In Egypt, a Skrull High Commander reports to Apocalypse that his people's involvement is undeniable, and the X-Men are on their guard, aware of their true adversary. But En Sabanur isn't worried, since the impulse for vengeance will deliver the remaining targets to him, standing among those he's already captured.
Geez, Apocalypse took Pokemon Go in a really extreme direction.
The issue closes as he declares the mystery of the 12 shall usher in the true and ultimate Age of Apocalypse.
Yeah, we know. Totally original idea that you had and no one else thought of before you. Jeez, you're dramatic. Story-wise, this kept better pacing, I thought, than Cable 75. The narration kind of told stuff most readers would already know, but in a colorful manner for any newcomers.
Even so, it can be kind of weird reading Magneto tell himself how he's a mutant, or Kurt talking about his teleporting the way he did. It didn't feel like something someone would say, even in inner monologue. I did notice some coloring inconsistencies, though. Not just Fizz's lobes, but the energy effects being kind of vague sometimes, so I don't know if that's part of, say, Logan's new power set or from his armor. And there are a couple of panels where Marrow's clothes were of questionable coverage. One has her obscured, all we see is her bare skin and her bone protrusions, and another sees her in the background and noticeably clothed, but not fully like in the first chapter.
We continue with Wolverine number 146, story by Fabian Nicieza and Eric Larson, with art by Mike Miller, Dorothy, Messinghill, and Christian. Those are the only names I saw.
Cover sees Wolvie roaring into the sky, standing among the bodies of most of the X-Men sent after him.
Someone worked so hard to kill their target, and when they finally succeed, they feel nothing but regret. It's what I like to call Elmer Fudd's remorse.
We open to Betsy Braddock, aka Psylocke, about to don Cerebro. Problem is, Betsy fought the Shadow King a while before this, and while she was victorious, imprisoning him inside her mind meant she couldn't use her telepathy without risking his freedom. But with Logan under Apocalypse's thrall, she's taking the risk. She contacts Angel as he, Jubilee, Nightcrawler, and Shadowcat search the sewers, which brings up painful memories for Warren since he lost his wings in these very tunnels in the Morlock Massacre storyline. We flash back to events leading up to their current crisis, Skrull Wolverine dying at the hands of Death, the revelation that had been an alien posing against him for a while, and how their hairy buddy was now their enemy. 2 things I have to point out here. Narration says that Wolvie was considered, in many ways, the heart and soul of the X-Men, which I don't agree with. Yeah, he's popular, but that's not the same thing. Then we have the recap of the previous installment, saying the Horsemen, plural, launched a scorched earth assault on the mansion, and the other horsemen were repelled, leaving Death trapped.
Looks like some editorial wires got crossed, because Logan McDeathface here was the only one of Apocalypse's new flunkies to infiltrate the mansion to get Mikhail. And I wouldn't call knocking around his own teammates and some property damage scorched earth.
Though for some reason, I kind of like that this panel is basically a redraw of the X-Men 96 cover. Kitty assures Jubilee she's taken precautions for their impending fight with their mentor, and Nightcrawler has a plan himself, which may require Psylocke to use Cerebro a bit more. Death is in the tunnels, recalling events from his past as Betsy locks onto him, making him recall repressed memories, leaving him open to attack by Warren and Kurt.
Kabong! Very good, sir.
And I guess Angel uses bolos now. Okay, never seen it before, but I'll roll with it. Psylocke's a little concerned over her winged boyfriend's ferocity, but he tells her to back off, just as some of his feathers get chopped, and Logan chucks his blade, injuring Kurt as he ports in. Sure, he could kill them, but he goes further into the tunnels, events flooding his mind for which he wasn't originally present, like Kitty almost getting Morlock married to Caliban years before. That's when Shadowcat herself emerges, wielding a pair of swords, and the two proceed to have a pretty well-done fight. Between her phasing and fighting skills, Pride is able to get several good strikes in, as well as stab Wolvie through the neck while trying to talk sense into him.
Two things that don't normally work in tandem. Not in my experience, anyway. If I have one criticism, it's that Logan's adamantium claws seem to pass through Shadowcat with very little problem, and I could have sworn the density of the metal caused her some kind of harm while phased. Either Kitty previously trained herself to surpass this weakness, or the writers goofed.
But it takes more than a case of katana throat to stop Death, as he breaks the blade and stabs Catherine's foot, which of course had to be solid for her strikes to connect. She pleads that he isn't mean, which seems to give Logan a lot of pause. Me too, he kinda can be mean, but anyway. Warren swoops in to save her, and Kurt ports them away as Wolvie crashes through a wooden door. Archangel presses his attack, recalling times he clashed with the Canuckle-head in the past, and Betsy tries to calm him down, saying there's something physically wrong with him. Again, Warren shrugs her off, still recalling unpleasant interactions as Death jumps him, though is knocked back by an explosion.
Well, it's about time Goku showed up and started to fight the big bad. We all know nobody else was going to beat him, so wait a minute.
No, that was Jubilee, telling Wolvie he can either get to the others by going through her, or let her help him as he's done for her in the past. She and Kurt make him recall all their happier times together, aided by Psylocke's telepathy, as she reaches the true Wolverine within his mind, and, I guess, uses her psionic blade on him. It seems to do the trick. "It's okay, kiddo. It's me. For now, at least. Death's taking a holiday."
Even though that's the exact kind of thing Death would say in order to get you to lay down your guard so I could skewer you. But I promise that's not the case. Scout's honor. What kind of scout? Death Scouts.
But just as these celebratory hugs are getting started, Betsy detects something else wrong, and Warren doesn't seem to be looking too good. Light. It never dies. Not even in monsters!
Well, Death may be suppressed, but someone sure killed the mood. Overall, this issue was alright, though narration gives a different story than what we read previously, and the resolution of Wolverine's recovery seems kinda too quick to me.
We did see a lot of flashbacks, which is better than some writers that just say things without editor's notes, so you have to wonder what's going on in case you missed something. But there didn't seem to be much effect it was having until the very end, so it kinda seems very sudden when he's back to normal. And between the two issues, it raises a kind of a plot hole. Jean, the superior telepath, even if Betsy's psionics weren't kind of on hold, couldn't detect Deathbird when she was attacking Iceman, but Psylocke, with her muted psionics using Cerebro, could track down Wolverine. Now, maybe it's a matter of distance. I figured it was more a matter of Apocalypse's tampering. Or maybe it's both. Or just a writer's flub.
Now, we're taking a break for a special episode next week, but after that, we see just what kind of change is happening to Archangel, and who better to help subdue him but the previously brainwashed X-Man he'd just been fighting. Yeah, I'm the Angry Spork, and man have I got issues.
4 more years! 4 more years!